Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Ahmed Susi, the Interim Executive Director of CAIR Arizona, and welcome to Education Week. This is Friday, so we're wrapping up Education Week, but I'm excited for this conversation on education, and I am pleased to be joined with one of our amazing board members, Azza Abu Saif. Azza, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ahmed. I'm so happy to be here. Education is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's like one of it's the core. It's one of the most important things that we can do to our community to get to where we need to be. So
That's
I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to on this conversation, just because I feel like education for both of us is the key. It's not only about the work that we do, but it's about building that future generation so we have the next leaders, right? We're gone, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's about the future. So making sure our community is educated is important to us. And I'm excited to have you on today. This week, we've been talking about our education efforts, right? This is our 2020 virtual banquet and fundraiser themed Help CAIR-AZ Go Deep, which stands for Defend, Educate, Empower, and Perseverance. And this is education. You saw our definition and you kind of saw some of the stuff that we've done this year, but 2020 has, for all of us, been an action-packed year, and I'm so proud of our education efforts. And we're gonna get into it here. But I first want to give a shout out to all of our interns and fellows who made it possible, just because you may not see all of them, but there are so many people who allow us to do so many things, and it wouldn't be possible without it. So I'm just going to give a quick shout out to all the people. I'm going to name them, but it'll be real quick. But Nooni, Tabarak, Esmail, Maher, Hussein, Arceli wasn't an intern, she was staff, but Arceli as well. And there was a bunch of volunteers that helped us educate our community. So thank you to them, but also thank you to you, the donors, who allowed us to bring in a staff that big, and inshallah bigger. Arizona is a huge state. We're not a small state, and I believe our chapter should represent our community. So throughout this conversation, we'll be making asks to please donate. The link will be below. But it's you go to our website, you can go to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter to donate. We even have a Launch Good campaign as well. So please help us go deep. Please help us fund us for 2021. But let's first celebrate our victories of 2020. So I'm going to ask you, what are some things that you're proud of our work in the education field this last year?
Yeah, everything. But specifically, our work with the census this year, it was probably one of the most important things that we have done in recent memory, especially with all the attempts to suppress the count. We cannot talk about the census work without talking about like the struggles we had this year, right? Especially with COVID. Pre-COVID, we were going out and tabling in all the masajids, and going out and speaking to the community, and also like using social media as a tool. But of course, COVID happened and every organization has had to switch into this digital program. And I'm super, super, super proud of the work that CAIR has done here in Arizona, making sure that we are reaching folks with educational videos on the census, where we put it on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We had a lot of Facebook Lives. We were sitting there right with the community as if we're sitting in their own living room and showing folks how to, fill out the census. And if you need to look at any of these videos, like one of our amazing interns, Nooni Bilal, she made a video and we have it on our Instagram page. One of the other efforts that I think is near and dear to my heart, if any of you know me, is the voter registration drive that we had. As we all know, this is probably one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. And we helped along with the One Arizona Coalition register 185,000 new voters. So that to me right there is what made a difference this election, and one of the biggest contributions that we have made this year to our community. Ahmed, am I missing anything? I feel like I'm missing so much of the
No
work
problem
that
at all. Well, so one of the things about the census, particularly, the last census every 10 years was 2010, and I remember seeing a couple commercials about it, but I was still in high school in 2010, so I really didn't think about it. So coming into CAIR, I actually had to get educated on the census, and that was because of our team who was like, "This is the census, this is what it does," and I didn't know. I always knew what the census did, but I didn't know how to fill it out, what kind of information they were asking. And that was kind of the fear within the community, right? Are they going to ask about my immigration status? Are they going to use it to give it to, ICE to put at-risk communities in jeopardy? So I was happy that before we were able to go out to the community, we had knowledgeable people in our office who were able to be like, this is what the census does. And we found out that the census was super easy to fill out, right? And like you said, we had Nooney's video, and we had our hashtag take a census break during early COVID quarantine. And I'm very proud of our efforts to get out the, we say get out the vote, but get out the census, right? Having people fill out the census and making sure that we're in a good place for the next 10 years. The other nice thing about our census, before I go to voting registration, was just the community engagement. So as you said, before COVID, we were in, a lot of our measures every Friday, every Saturday, trying to do tabling, and you, the community, came and were so excited to learn about the census and all what CAIR-Arizona was offering. So it was always fun to go out to the meshes. Inshallah, we could do it soon. But I'm just proud of the community engagement and wanting to be like, well, what is the census? How can we get involved? What do we need to do to take it? And I know that before 2010, not to shortchange anyone, I didn't see as much of a push, especially in the Muslim community, to do the census. And I'm proud that we were able to do it in 2020. Inshallah, 2030, that 2029 will be even better, and have Arizona have a higher fill out rate. But moving to voter registration, that's something that, funny enough, when I started in 2019, we were doing voting registration back then, and probably even before I even was there. And it's the same thing, just the community's appetite for this education. It's one thing to just post these videos and just say, inshallah, people will see them, inshallah, people will get information. But I'm very proud of our community who are like, thank you for offering this to us. And one of the things I want to highlight is closer to, so we had the primary election and we had a lot of information right there, but right after the primary election, it was a couple month period where the general started to turn up, and we were able to put out a lot of voter engagement content with not only how to vote, but your rights to vote. So I want to jump to you real quick, Azza, and talk about the video you and Sakina made about your rights to vote and how to vote.
I want to touch on one last thing, Ahmed,
Sure.
that you mentioned. The difference between now and 2010 has been the educational piece that like CAIR in general has been putting out, right? Had it not been for the outreach to the community and making sure that the community really understands the importance of filling out your census, the importance of voting, having these conversations and lives that you've been having all the time is the reason why there's such a stark difference between 2010 and 2020. So I just wanted to point that out really quickly. But the video that me and Sakina made was, I think it was like a few weeks before the November 3rd election. And you were in the video too, so
yes.
give yourself credit. But we basically spoke about the importance of voting, how to vote, different options of voting here in Arizona. We are really trying to make this as simple as possible, right? So something that I truly approve, like, again, I keep like praising CAIR, right? But something that I truly appreciate that you've done this year, right? Like CAIR in general, or we've done, is making sure that we cover the details, right? Where do you want to go vote, or where can you go vote? What are the locations next to you? How can you find more information about candidates that are running for your legislative district or for your county or whatever, right? So the video that me, Sakina, and you made were basically um, covered all of these points.
And one of the things too about that video is just because of COVID too. You know, a lot of this is because of COVID. One of the reasons why we're doing this virtual banquet is because of COVID. But a lot of people were like, I don't know what are the safe ways to vote, and unfortunately, there was suppression efforts as well on, well, my ballot, is it safe in the mail? So one of the things I saw, especially in this year, is that when our systems are attacked, our community revolves around and says, hey, we need to make sure this is protected. And I'm proud to be part of those efforts as the only real civil rights organization that specifically dedicated to Muslims, but obviously our knowledge is for everyone. But I'm proud that we're leading these efforts, and it's only because of you generous donors. I can't stress that enough. CAIR Arizona does not have like a CAIR National does not give CAIR Arizona money to operate. It's literally because of you all who generously donate. And I know that, especially in COVID, a lot of us were hurt financially, but alhamdulillah, you all are still giving to us. And I'm proud to serve and be an outlet. But like I said, with COVID, a lot of people were unsure how to vote and what were the different outlets. So I was happy that we were able to provide that. One thing about voting specifically on the day of is our election protection efforts. And this is probably the most crucial, that some people who did not want to early vote, they knew that voting day was the day to go vote. And alhamdulillah, we had people at the Islamic Center of the East Valley to do election protection who were there dedicated. We were part of an interfaith coalition, but we were there to make sure not only people knew their rights to vote, but if they had an issue voting, they could come to us and we could report this to a hotline to get lawyers involved. Voting is our tool in a democracy, and when you're talking about civil rights, it is the sword to protect. It's the shield to protect civil rights, and it's the sword to advance civil rights. So I was very proud of our election protection efforts that once again would not be able to provide without our generous donors. One thing I'm going to turn to as the attorney is now our what most of you know CAIR Arizona to do is our Know Your Rights presentations. This last year, we got to go pretty much all across the states. If you saw our definition post on Monday, you'll see that we put the three main universities of Arizona, ASU, U of A, and NAU. We got to go to Tucson, to U of A. We got to go to ASU. Fortunately, we didn't get to go specifically to NAU, but we did go to Flagstaff to do an Islamophobia training. And I got to go all around the community to talk about Know Your Rights. And we had different Know Your Rights presentations, right? There was the general Know Your Rights presentations. We had Islamophobia trainings. And once again, the reason why I'm able to, drive around this whole state is because, alhamdulillah, you all are giving me the salary to do that. And I know these efforts would be done without a CAIR Arizona, but just to have that ability to provide is amazing. One of the things we had to do to adapt is with COVID go electronically or virtually. So we had our Know Your Rights presentations on Facebook Live. And if you remember the first Facebook Live we did, we still were new to Zoom. So I had like my phone and my TV as the PowerPoint, and it was a little bit rough, but alhamdulillah, we were able to change how we do it and do it on Zoom. One thing that I do hope that we continue is our Legal Hour program. And I love Legal Hour just because what I usually find is every time I go for Friday prayer, people would come up and say, hey, Ahmed, I have a couple of questions, or hey, Ahmed, I have these issues. And depending on that day, I might not have time to actually stop what I was doing after Friday prayer and talk with everyone. So we made Legal Hour as a way that I would go to a masjid at the Friday khutbahs at night and just sit there for an hour and have people come up and ask me questions. And we got to go to ICC, ICEV, we got to go to the Levine Masjid, And uh, we will definitely need to expand that to a virtual space. As always, if you ever need to get a hold of us, you could call us, you could send us an email. We're always here for you to protect the community. But it was just good. I know a lot of times we see people who are just in the masjid and they say, oh, free legal service, because that's what your donations provide, right? We talked a little bit about this in Defend, but it's free legal representation. You have a question, you have someone who's been discriminated, you come to us, and if we can't help you, we'll try to find the resources too. But I know that there are people at the masjid who just, hey, I have a quick question. I'm not on social media. Can I ask you? And we are able to provide that level of service because of all of you. But let me pass to Azza if she had anything else for education.
I actually wanted you to elaborate a little bit more about like what the Know Your Rights is and why it's really important for the
Definitely.
community to have a Know Your Rights presentation, or representative or someone who's out there just giving that educational part of the Know Your Rights.
Definitely. It's one thing to have an attorney there to defend, but realistically, I'm one person, and Arizona is such a big state that we would not be able to provide representation to everyone. That's just not possible. Inshallah, we build as a chapter that we can, but even if it there's there needs to be that connection, right? If something bad happens to you, you have to understand that, is there a way that I could fix the situation? Should I call CAIR? So one of the things that I want all our community to do is have this basic level of, these are my rights, right? I want everyone to know that they have the right on Fridays to ask for a reasonable accommodation at their workplace. And if the workplace, they also have the right to say it might not be reasonable, but they outright reject it, or they say no just to say no. There are ways that you have rights that are protected. And even if you don't call CAIR, I want you to know your rights, that you have the right to wear hijab in the workspace. You have the right that to wear your hijab in a license or a passport picture. One of the first cases, or not even cases, one of the first calls I got was a weekend into the office, and someone was discriminated. They said they had to take off your hijab for this license plate, for the driver's license photo. And after I heard that call, the first thing we did is we put out a Facebook Live saying, hey, we want everyone to know you have the right to wear hijab, just because realistically, we're not going to get all the calls, but we want to make sure our community is educated on their rights. That's the most important thing, especially as the attorney, because as I said, if you don't know your rights, then too many times I hear cases like, oh, I didn't know I had that opportunity to fix that situation, or I left this job, or something like that. So to me, it's just making sure we have that base level of rights. And that's what we do in our Know Your Rights presentation, especially our general Know Your Rights. We go over your housing rights. We go over your rights with law enforcement. You may have seen that our champions of justice, our monthly donors, are all getting a free no chai for the FBI mug. And that's because I want to make sure every single person in Arizona understands that they never, ever, ever have to talk to law enforcement without an attorney. I know our community, unfortunately, is the victim of so much abuse, and it's not unconstitutional abuse. This is their power, law enforcement, to ask, hey, I have a couple of questions. Can you answer them? And it's just such a risk to not protect yourself. And we want everyone to have the power and know. First of all, it's not. I'm going ahead of myself. It's not having that power. It's to know they could say no, because when law enforcement knocks on your door, it's automatic panic mode, right? It's what's happening, what's the situation? We're good people. What's the issue? And it's to know that, hey, I saw that Facebook Live, or I was at the Masjid for Know Your Rights presentation, and Ahmed, the attorney, said, I have the right to say no. I don't want to have a conversation. If I do want to have a conversation, I have the right to have an attorney present. So it's that education piece. What I truly think of my job as the only attorney in the office is to make sure everyone is educated, just because I cannot represent everyone, but at the minimum to make sure everyone's educated. And that's why our theme this year is to help CAIR-Arizona go deep, because we want to make sure that in 2021 we have the resources that everyone can be educated. So that's the Know Your Rights programs.
Yeah, Ahmed, I think like there's power in knowledge, right? And like I only hope we can replicate you, and inshallah one day be able to afford more attorneys to be able to reach out to more of our community, right? Like all across, because just like you said, it's, you know, just one of you and the whole Muslim population here in Arizona. So there's only so much you can reach. But yes, power and knowledge, and that's really something we need and we strive for in our community.
One thing I want to turn to is there's so many victories we've had in the past that we're not able to get to, but those are our major ones. I kind of want to talk about where we want to go in the future, right? We talk about helping us fund 2021, and that's not only just to replicate what we already do, which is important, but we want to build and grow. There is an appetite in our community, especially after this election, to be engaged and involved. And we do not want to miss out. We want to capitalize on this hunger to be civically engaged, to know your rights. The last 4 years, we saw a lot of people starting to realize, wow, you know, the local level has so much to do with us. We talk about, we want to do reform on law enforcement. We want to do this, we want to do that. Our eyes were, a lot of us were open, and some of us were already doing the work, and some of us have known forever. But I would say that the last 4 years has made in our community a change on how we look at civic engagement. It's no longer that, oh, this is the elected official job. It's now that not only do I want my my representative to know me, it's sometimes I can be that representative. So as I want you to talk a little bit about CAIR Arizona's efforts for 2021 with regards to education.
Yeah, Ahmed, great question. Really, honestly, the efforts that we're going to have is basically recruiting and hiring interns and fellows to go out to the community, whether, or to reach out to the community, whether it's through social media or through going out to the masjids, of course, like with PPE and all of that good stuff. Uh, but our efforts are basically to make sure that our community is not only well equipped for anything that is happening, especially with all of this xenophobia that's happening out in the world and Islamophobia right now, making sure that we really reach every single person that we can to talk about know your rights, to talk about why voting is important, why we should stay vigilant to things that are happening out in the community, right? Things that, for example, something that you did, Ahmed, this year, 2020, was having a bunch of little pieces on social media on why it's important to vote. Like if you care about like um, police brutality, Islamophobia, and all of these things. Why, what different elected officials can do for our community, and why we should be holding people accountable. That's all educational and education that we have to provide to the community. Making sure that we know that if we're unhappy with the way the police is treating our community, that we are electing a mayor and a city council that's going to care about Muslims in that city, in that county, making sure that people understand that this is a lot deeper than just elections and census, right? It like just like the banquet, it really is deep, right? It's not just the surface, it's not just presidential, it's not just Senate, it's the community we're in, the masajids we're in, the mayors that are in the cities that our masajids are in. We need to make sure that the community knows and is able to not only fend for itself, right, but to make decisions to move forward, right, and feel safe and feel connected and have all the proper tools to live as normal as possible, right, in a world that's Islamophobic.
No, I'm with you, and I'll take it a step forward, and And with our education efforts, it's because now the legislature, the state legislature starts in January, so does the federal level. It's not waiting until the next election to learn about who are the good politicians. It doesn't matter who's in office now, they work for you. Even if you didn't vote for them, you are their constituent. And that means that if there's an issue that they may not see, it's learning to go to them and saying, hey, this is an issue we need to fix, right? And one a lot of times you hear in our work specifically is that there's not a lot of time to rest, right? It's on to the next thing, it's on to the next thing. So for just right now, everyone take a deep breath, and if you have some leftover pecan pie or something, have a slice and relax. But it's true though that the fight for civil rights is not something that you could just stop doing. It's something that you have to constantly fight, not only to advance, but more importantly to protect. And there's going to be legislation this year that are going to try to silence rights, that are going to try to attack our community and our allies' communities. We saw in 2020 that there were bills targeting sanctuary cities. We saw that there was the anti-BDS bill on the state level, right? It's sometimes some of us only watch national news, and it was very consuming to be like, what's happening to the Muslim community? What's happening to our refugee community? What's happening to all these people? But on the state level and on the city level, those are places where sometimes you don't see on the national news. Make sure to follow our local news, little plug for local news. But you want to, it's our job as the educators of civil rights for the Muslim community is to bring that to you. So one of the things you saw last year was we were starting to put out alarms that there was a coalition trying to pass an anti-BDS bill. And we wanted people to get out to their state representatives to tell them how silencing First Amendment rights is not a good thing. And we want to make sure it goes bigger than this. It's kind of the same thing we're talking about as a lawyer. The more people who know how the process works, the better our society is. A lot of times it's kind of what, if you don't see what's happening in the darkness, a lot of stuff can happen. And that's why we want people to understand, okay, this is my state representative. I can easily look up what their, let me go a step back. How is the bill passed in Arizona, right? These are questions that we started to get into with our CAIR Arizona University, which is a program who started off by an intern, Maher, who we want to expand in 2021 and make more videos. And to do that, we need to be properly funded so we can have people working on that. But if we're not going to stay vigilant with our civil rights, then we can't be shocked when they're taken away. And sometimes you see that it's hard to find that information, but that's why there's us, right? This is why you donate to CAIR Arizona, so we can be the piece that sends out, here's an info guide on this bill, or this is where you need to call your congressman on. And I just hope that our community does not lose this hunger for civics. And because it truly is a more empathetic society we have, the more empathy we have, I truly believe the better society we have. And that's kind of why education to me is still the most crucial thing. Even as an attorney, I love to defend, but education to me is probably the most important part of the work we do. But I want to ask you any last remarks for our conversation.
Yeah, I guess one last thing, we're not, if you can donate a huge amount, great. If you can't, be a champion of justice. You can go to our website. Ahmed is going to put on our page, like our website and where you can donate. But just making sure that we're not waiting till last minute, right, to get this ball rolling, right? We don't want to wait until an emergency to make sure that we're well funded, or we have an attorney, or we have someone to represent us, or we have someone who's staying vigilant, right? We want to make sure that we are building the foundation, or like keeping the foundation strong right now. So making sure that we have staff hired up to make sure we have a research department, we have someone like interns that are going out to the community and really trying to figure out what the community needs in order for us to be able to help. This is why this is important. It's in order for us to expand and to make sure that we can get creative and we can have people really out there advocating for our families. But I guess that's really my last remark, Ahmed, unless you have anything else you want.
No, I couldn't. You said it as best as it is. We rely on your funds, and we would not be able to educate at the level that we are doing without you. I understand. One of the things you said is that when it comes an emergency, we all start, all right, how can we help? How can we help? And it's like you said, even though it may not seem like as an emergency as the last 4 years, it is building that base. So whatever happens, we are protected, and we all know the levers that we need to use to do. So I just want to stress the point again. Whatever you donate, every little bit helps. $5, $10, become a champion of justice, which is a monthly donor. Every single bit helps, and it means a lot to us, especially me in a COVID time where people are still donating to us, because I understand how hard it is for a lot of us, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you all again for joining us for this conversation. We're going to have a lot of great stuff coming for you. Don't forget, we have a silent auction as well. We have the nominal watch that we just dropped this week for silent auction. But we have a lot of great stuff. We still have Empower and Perseverance. Thank you for spending some time with us this Friday. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're here for you all. Thank you so much. Masalama. Yes.